Maybe you want to apply for a green card under EB2 NIW category and you don't have an advanced degree, such as a master's or PhD. Hi, I'm Oscar and I'm a scientist. And in today's video we're going to cover exceptional ability, a different route that you can use to qualify for a green card in the United States. Before we jump in our topic for today, let's recap a little bit on the matter of Danastar, which is so important for the EB2 NIW requirements. On one hand, let's start with the right side of this slide. And by the way, if you want to cover this in greater detail, I have a specific video about the requirements for EB2 NIW. You can check it out in the corner here. The matter of Danastar dictates the specific requirements for EB2 NIW green card. And you have to meet the three prongs. Number one, you have to have an endeavor of substantial merit and national importance. For me, that's probably the key prong in this matter of Danastar. You also have to show that you are well positioned, that you have a history of progress in your field and you have achieved something. And number three, on balance, it is beneficial for the United States to waive the job offer because this EB2 NIW category is a category in which you can self-petition. You don't need a job offer, you don't need a company, you don't even need a lawyer to do this. You can do everything by yourself. But for today's topic, today we're going to cover exceptional ability. Let's cover the general requirements for the EB2 requirement. EB2 means employment-based second-class category of green cards. And typically we say that you need an advanced degree for this category. And it is true, you can qualify under this EB2 category if you have an advanced degree, which is a master's or PhD. But there are other ways you can qualify. One alternative way is if you have a bachelor and 5 years of progressive experience, meaning that you can show that you have grown in your profession, in your occupation, and you can do that with letters from your current or past employers. You also can show that you have exceptional ability if you don't have a master or PhD or even a bachelor. Today we're going to cover that, so that's why I have it highlighted here. We're going to talk about exceptional ability in more detail because in previous videos we didn't really get too deep into it. So what is exceptional ability? First of all, I want to tell you, don't get caught by the words, this very not humble way of describing yourself. I think many of us wouldn't say that we are exceptional or we are extraordinary, but we have to really look at what the USCIS defines as exceptional ability and leave our thoughts about these words aside for a second. So exceptional ability for USCIS means, and I'm quoting a literal text from the USCIS policy manual. I have another video talking about different websites that you can use to get information, and I'll leave a link here on the corner. The USCIS policy manual is a very important resource that you should really look into if you are doing this do-it-yourself application. So from this manual I took this quote: the term exceptional ability is defined as a degree of expertise significantly above that ordinarily encountered in the sciences, arts, or business. This standard is lower than the standard for extraordinary ability classification. This is an important point, this last sentence, because we have different categories of green cards. We are talking now about EB2 NIW, but we also have EB1, the first category of employment base. And here USCIS is saying something interesting for our everyday language. Maybe we don't differentiate between exceptional and extraordinary, but for USCIS, extraordinary is here on top, and then a little bit lower than that is exceptional. So if you were interested in an EB1 application, then extraordinary ability is one of the small percentage who have risen to the very top of the field of endeavor. So here we see how USCIS treats extraordinary as something really, someone that is really at the top of the field. You have to demonstrate that you are one of the small percentage. But for EB2 NIW, if you want to go the exceptional ability route, if you don't have an advanced degree, for example, then you have to meet a slightly lower standard. You have to be significantly above others, but you don't have to be one of the smallest percentage on the top. So that's an important distinction. So you may be wondering, okay, these are all very nice words, but tell me something about something practical. How do I qualify under this exceptional ability rule? Okay, so I'm taking information from the USCIS website, and I'll leave links in the description below so you can directly go and read on your own. But here are the important points. A beneficiary, a petitioner, may qualify for this exceptional ability preference classification if you have an exceptional ability in the sciences, arts, or businesses. A pretty broad statement here. You show that you have a substantial benefit to the national economy of the US, or even cultural or educational interest or welfare of the United States in the future. And that is interesting because as part of the Danasar three prongs, you really have to show that your endeavor, that your work will benefit the US, the economy, the US as a whole. So this is nothing really additional to what we see in the three prongs that you have to meet anyway. And finally, if your services in one of those fields are sought by an employer in the United States. So here they are saying, if you have someone chasing you, chasing your skills, chasing your ability to do a certain work, then you may be a person of exceptional ability. All right, but this is still a little bit generic. So tell me more, Oscar, about what do I need to present in my application to convince USCIS that I am indeed a person of exceptional ability. So to get into that, let's see how USCIS decides these cases. To judge if you are a person of exceptional ability, they follow a two-step review. And this, again, I took from the USCIS policy manual. First, they decide if you meet certain regulatory criteria. We will see in the next slides that you have to meet 3 criteria at least to qualify under this exceptional ability rule. But not only that, then they do a final merit determination. The USCIS officer looks at all your evidence and decides if your evidence as a whole, not piece by piece, but as a whole, the quality of your evidence really puts you at the level of an exceptional ability person. So let's look at both steps. Step number 1 is the one that talks really about the type of evidence that you may want to include. You have to meet at least 3 of the 6 criteria that are shown in this slide. One criteria is that you have an academic record showing a degree, diploma, certificate, or similar award from college, university, school, or other learning institution. There's a typo here for school. So in your area of exceptional ability, that's important. It cannot be in something completely different. In your area of endeavor, you have to show some sort of diploma. Let's call it that way. It doesn't say advanced diploma, it has to be something from a learning institution. But this is just one of the 6. You don't have to meet that one. You can meet 3 of the others. So the second one is letters from current or former employers showing that you have at least 10 years of full-time experience in the occupation. And really read the sentence in its entirety. You have to show 10 years of full-time experience. It cannot be 10 years of part-time or 8 years of full-time. So if you think you have that, then just gather letters from your employers showing that indeed you have those years of experience. Another way is a license to practice or certification for a particular occupation. If your profession, let's say you are an engineer and it requires that you have a certain license to practice, a PE, for example, in the US or something equivalent in your country, then you can show that. Evidence of commanding a higher salary or higher remuneration. So if you can prove that you're getting paid more than the average in your field, you can gather that evidence with your pay stubs, paychecks, and some source showing the average pay for your occupation, then you can show that in your application as well. And by the way, these things, you can also add them to your second prong of the matter of Danasar, the prong where you have to prove you're well positioned. All these points you can reuse for also that prong. The number 5 out of the 6 is membership in professional associations. And this is an important distinction with the EB1 category in which you have to show that you're a member in professional associations that don't accept anyone, only the top people in the field. Here, you just have to show that you're a member in an association, even if it's an association where you just pay a fee and you have been a member for a while, you can show that here. And the last one is evidence of recognition of achievements to the industry or field. For example, if you have been given an award for your contributions or by your peers, by your company, by a professional association you are part of, then you can show that, and that would be one of the 6 criteria that you can meet. You need at least 3 out of that. The more you can add, the better. So if you have 4, prove the 4, because then we have the step number 2, in which the officer will judge them all as a whole and will judge the quality of the evidence you present. So even if you have one that is so-and-so that it doesn't meet 100% of what the officer is looking at, then maybe 2 that are half and half, then it can put you above the line there. So always add as much evidence as you can, as long as you can prove it. For everything you claim, you have to prove it. We have seen that in all our videos. If these types of evidence do not apply in your occupation, then you can submit comparable evidence. However, you have to explain why the evidence submitted is comparable and why the criteria didn't apply to you. So that is always important. You cannot just say, well, those criteria didn't apply to me, so I'm submitting this other stuff. You have to really justify it. The step number 2, once you have these criteria submitted, then they will look at the quality of the evidence. So even if you think you meet 3 out of 6, it doesn't mean that automatically you're going to be approved for exceptional ability. They will judge the quality, and here it says the officer must determine whether or not the petitioner, by a preponderance of the evidence, has demonstrated that the beneficiary has a degree of expertise significantly above that ordinarily encountered in the sciences, arts, or business. So quality is as important as quantity. Another key point here is that certificates and other formal documentation may have more weight than letters prepared for the petition. So if you can prove the claims that you are making through official documentation, for example, a certificate that you have a license to practice, that is stronger than if you have a letter by someone saying that you have a certificate in your profession. I don't know if you can see the difference. It's always more important to have the direct evidence for this kind of application. So my conclusions about this 2-step process. Quality is as important as quantity because there's a 2-step process, and the second step involves the USA officers looking at the quality of what you submitted as a whole. Number 2, the USCIS officer has the last word, as usual, on the approval or denial. If he or she believes that claims are not true, and that can happen if you didn't submit proper evidence, and they can articulate why they think that, then they can and will deny the petition, explaining the reasons why in the denial letter. You would get a letter explaining why they didn't accept your evidence. So it's always important that, first of all, you submit as much evidence as you have to hit as many of those criteria as you can, but also that you really submit the evidence that substantiate the claims that you are making. So to conclude this video, I want to remind you that in my website, EB2 NIW.info, you can find a lot of information about this process. You can read and really get proficient in this. And you can also download my real and successful I-140 petition. If you want to do this by yourself without a lawyer, without a company, then you can do it. And you better have an example of someone that filed this kind of petition. This is a process that takes effort, but is doable. And if you can read my petition, even if I'm a scientist and you may be something in another field, it may help you to really understand how to write things, how to argue, and how to structure your petition in an effective way. I was approved in EB2 NIW, and you can be approved too if you work hard on this. Recently, I'm also offering a coaching service for those of you that are doing this process by yourselves. So what I include in the service is 2 calls, one at the beginning to review the strategy. So we will go over the evidence that you want to include, and I'll give you the tips that I consider helpful for your case. I will review your petition package once you write it, and then we can have another call to go over the petition and see how we can improve it. We can rearrange the calls if we consider that the order, that another order is more effective. What I don't include here is opinion on your qualifications or prediction of your success rate. I never do that. I think that's not fair. The USCIS officer is the person that will judge your petition. What we can do is write the strongest petition that we can. But the writing part will be on your own. I will not write your petition. I will review and help you with my advice. But this is for do-it-yourself applicants that want to be active on the application. I'm not a lawyer, I'm a scientist, so I will not provide immigration or legal advice. All right, I hope to see you in the next video and good luck in your EB2 NIW journey.